I got a puppy to help with my anxiety disorder, and I want to tell you a bit about my experience the first week of having him. So if you're new here, my name is Peter, and on this channel I share my experience with panic and agoraphobia and generalized anxiety disorder, as well as some of the things that have helped me. So I guess this is the part that you've been waiting to see, and this is Caesar. He's a 14-week-old miniature poodle puppy, and I've had him for just under a week now. So in this video, I'll talk about what it's been like so far, the benefits as well as the disadvantages, and also some of the legalities of having an animal that will help you with your mental well-being. So first off, why did I get Caesar? So I got Caesar because I've always wanted to have a dog, but I couldn't have one in my family home. And another major reason was that I really believe that he will help me with my anxiety in the long term. Because as you can tell, I'm feeling very, very calm just cuddling him right now. I even have a doctor's note suggesting that I get a support dog to help with my anxiety, but I'll talk about that later in the video. So another thing about Caesar is that he's going to be trained to help out with my panic attacks that I still get frequently. And then later on, we're going to train him to become a therapy dog so that he can help other people with their mental well-being. So let's get a bit into the breed and why I chose a poodle. So as I said, Caesar is a miniature poodle, but I've met so many other dogs in my life, and during my research, the qualities of a poodle just seemed perfect for the type of dog that would match me. Poodles have many qualities that make them really good as emotional support dogs. One is that they're extremely intelligent. They're actually the second most intelligent breed behind the Border Collie. And this can mean that they're really quick and easy to train. They're also really active and require a lot of physical and mental stimulation. And that's something that I think that I actually need more of in my life. Because with anxiety, it's easy to stay in one place, stay indoors. I actually had agoraphobia, which made it hard for me to leave the house at one point. And if I had something that kept me on a set routine, I think that I would have been a lot better in that situation. So having a dog that I need to take every day for a walk, multiple times a day, that I need to look after, it gives me something else for my mind to focus on that isn't just those constant worries. And that will lead me to get out more, to grow my confidence of being out, to be able to push through uncomfortable sensations, as I'll have to get out no matter how bad I feel. And all of these things were really easy for me to avoid doing in my normal day-to-day life before Caesar came along. Poodles also don't shed, which is quite good, and they don't really smell really bad either. So if you're looking for like a very clean dog that doesn't leave fur all over the place, poodles are really great for that. And they're typically extremely friendly and cuddly. So, I mean, look, so right now he's just sleeping, resting on me. So I think that means he feels pretty safe already with me, which is really good. And he absolutely loves people. So anyone that comes near, he just wants to cuddle them and lick them and just be really, really sweet. And it's just like very heartwarming, and it just makes me feel really calm. He just can't get enough of cuddling. Even when I come sit down, he'll just come and want to sit on my lap, or he'll want to rest his head on my foot. He just likes being close. But that is another point that I should touch upon, is that poodles are so smart and they're so affectionate that they can actually get anxiety quite badly, and they specifically get separation anxiety. So the first couple of days, Caesar was following me everywhere I walked around the house, and my girlfriend too, which if one of us left the room, he'd go immediately and follow us to where we were going. If both of us left the room, then he would be crying and whining. And so these are some things that we have to really work on now early to get him used to kind of being by himself, so that he can feel confident, so that we don't just kind of feed off each other's anxiety of being alone as well. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have a busy life, it's probably, where you're not going to be able to spend that much time, you're not going to be able to put the time into training him properly, then it might not be the best breed for you. But so far, after a week, he's gotten a lot more comfortable in the house. He spends more time by himself. He can spend time in his crate by himself as well at night. But those first few days were an absolute nightmare. He followed us around everywhere, and when we had to put him in his crate at night, he would scream and howl and wouldn't bark, but it was very loud. And we have, neighbors that we were worried about getting complaints. So those first few days actually made my anxiety skyrocket. I was getting a lot more stressed. I was losing sleep. I was having way more heart palpitations than normal. But at the same time, I still had to do more stuff, and I had to get out and walk him despite the fact that I was having so much more palpitations. And that experience was extremely stressful for me, but it was also like real stress. So anxiety is real stress, but anxiety can often be, just the things that you're imagining. But this was, oh, the dog is up at night, I need to walk him. Oh, he's had an accident in the house. Oh, I need to clean it up. And I was feeling all those anxiety symptoms in a totally different context that was just more realistic and had more of a real solution. So I didn't necessarily need to ruminate on a lot of things. I just had to do actions. And that actually helped me to grow more confident in dealing with myself when I feel these stress symptoms in my body and all those typical anxiety symptoms. So keep that in mind. The first few days or even weeks are not going to be good or easy or fun. It's really nice to have a cuddly thing, but he becomes very hyper as well, and he needs to play and he needs a lot of attention, so it can be quite hard work. So let me tell you a bit about the daily routine, what we do with Caesar. So at around 7, we wake up, take him out of his crate, and I take him for an early morning walk. We're still learning how to walk, because before we got him, he actually didn't know how to walk on the lead. So I'm slowly teaching him how to do this, and he's getting better every day. But he's also quite an anxious dog. He gets scared around other dogs, but he loves other people. So it's a bit of a challenge, but I'm quite a patient person, so it's not so bad for me. But if you're not very patient, it's hard work. So keep that in mind as well. But for me, that's already way more activity than I would do in my day-to-day before him. I work from home, so usually I would just get up. I might go to the gym, and then I would just work on stuff, and then I'd work on this Anxiety Fitness channel and TikTok videos, on YouTube videos, and that would be my day. I'd stay inside most of the day. But now I'm getting up and I have to get out every morning, and I think that has had quite a positive effect just in 1 week from doing that. So after we get back from the walk, I'll give him his food. So we feed him his dog food. But before I do that, I'll actually do a little bit of training. So I'll teach him how to sit. There's this really cool trick called touch, where he touches his nose to my hand, and it's very cute. And we teach him down. This is all parts to teach him to relax. And one important thing that we do as well is, as we want him to be a therapy dog, which means he will be around, people that may not be so calm or quiet, we need to teach him kind of respect and boundaries around things like food, for example. So before we give him his meal, he has to sit and wait before he can go. We don't just give it to him and he's very excited. He has to kind of calm and soothe down first, so that he's more kind of calm and confident in that way. And also I work in the office, and this ties into the separation anxiety thing. So I have an office room and we have our bedroom, and these are 2 rooms that he is not allowed to go into. This was one of the first things that we taught him immediately when we got home, was we taught him that he's not allowed in those rooms. So now if you see, when I walk into the room, even if he's following me, he'll walk up until the door, and that line is just like an invisible boundary. And it's actually really cool how he does that, because he's so smart. He learned this really, really quickly. And this again helps with the separation anxiety. It helps him to know kind of his place in the house, where he's allowed and where he's not. And it will help him further down the line to be kind of more obedient, and that will help him to have a more happier life. So after training, he'll just hang out, he'll walk around, he'll play a little bit, he'll go to sleep, rest. He's got his crate and he has this little pillow that he sits on. And then it kind of just repeats. At lunchtime, we'll feed him, we'll go for another walk, and then around 8 o'clock, we'll go for another walk and give him his dinner, and then we'll put him in his bed, in his crate for bedtime. And that, the first few days, as I said, is a time when he's really howling, when he's really scared. For those first few days, it took kind of actually a couple of hours for him to calm down. It was really stressful. But now that he's got used to it and he's actually feels quite safe and happy in his crate, it's just important that you make it like a happy, exciting place. So you put the toys in there, you give him food in there. It's a place where he actually wants to go to. You don't force him in. He wants to go in there. But the problem just comes because he likes to be with us. So when we close the door and we go in another room, he'll cry for a little bit, but then he realizes hey, I'm okay. I'm gonna just rest and I'm gonna go to sleep. And he goes to sleep for most of the night. And every day it just gets a little bit better with how kind of comfortable and happy he is. So after sticking to this routine for 1 week, It has been stressful, but at the same time, I feel a lot more alive. I feel a lot more awake. I've had less time to be anxious about things. I've had less time to like constantly worry. I have still had like mini panic attacks and stuff, but I had to get through it quicker, and I had to kind of just allow those feelings to wash over because I had this little puppy to look after. And before, I was just kind of going with the flow, but not like in a good way. And also on the training is actually, for me, as I said, I'm a very patient person. It's a very meditative experience. It's, you know, we're just doing repetitions. So sit, and then you give him a treat, and then paw, and then he puts his paw and you give him a treat, and it's really cute and fun. It's a great bonding exercise. And for me, it's actually quite calming because it takes my mind off of, again, things that I might be worrying about, you know, anxious thoughts, all that kind of stuff. And I just enjoy the moment of watching, you know, this animal learn new things. Okay, so he's really tired now, so I'm gonna let him sit down on his bed or something. But I'm sure you're wondering, what are some of the legalities of having an animal to support you with your mental health? So for example, you might be worried, oh, my landlord doesn't allow animals. If I get one for my mental health, can that be allowed? Come on, buddy. Go, buddy. So depending on where you are in the world, support dogs may or may not be recognized. I still find it a little bit confusing, but in the UK, where I live, emotional support animals are not recognized legally in the same way that assistance animals are. Although there are some services that allow you to register your animal or dog as a support dog, it's not legally recognized, although some organizations and businesses may recognize them and allow them in. So it depends. And also those businesses define what an emotional support animal is differently. So there's no one standard legal thing that helps, and it's not recognized in the law. However, there was a case, and I'll leave the link in the description. It was Plymouth Community Homes Limited versus Christopher Palmer, where a man, Christopher, who had a mental health condition, breached his tenancy agreement by getting a dog as emotional support. And after that, the landlord asked him to remove the dog from the premises, and he refused. Then the landlord entered eviction proceedings. Christopher then took the landlord to court and actually won the case. So if you want to get into details about that, the link's in the description. Now, in addition to emotional support animals, in the UK, we do have assistance animals. And don't worry, I will get to the US side of things as well. So in the UK, you can have a dog recognized as an assistance dog, and these are protected by the Equality Act. They are not considered pets, and it's illegal to refuse service to someone or discriminate against them in any way. And you don't need to have an ID or specific certification from the dog, but there are kind of strict standards that need to be met for the dog to be considered legally an assistance dog, which I'll show on the screen now. And I'll also leave a link in the description. But basically, they need to be highly trained. They won't wander freely around premises. They'll sit or lie quietly on the floor next to its owner, and are trained to go to the toilet on command, so they won't, use the bathroom in a public space. And most are instantly recognizable by the harness or identifying dog jacket. So technically, you could train your dog to be a psychiatric assistance dog, for example, who could fetch you medication, alert you or help you through a panic attack, for example, by applying like pressure therapy, or just licking you, distracting you from whatever is causing you to be anxious in that moment. But the law is still kind of vague, so I'd highly encourage you to research this quite deeply if you think that it might be something that could help you. Now, I'll quickly cover the US side of things as well. I did some research, so I might be wrong, but let's just go through it quickly. So in the US, there are emotional support animals and service animals. So to be legally recognized as an emotional support animal, so pause, we just got Caesar's little doggy coat because it's like starting to get cold and rainy. So we got him a little coat. Just want to say, look how cute it is. Hello. Hey, everyone. Hello.
Can we have a look at it?
So apologies for the distraction. To be legally considered an emotional support animal, the pet needs to be prescribed by a licensed mental health professional to a person with a disabling mental illness. So a therapist, psychologist, or psychiatrist must determine that the presence of the animal is needed for the mental health of the patient. So for example, owning a pet might ease someone's anxiety or give them a focus in life. And for dogs, they can be of any age or any breed. For service animals, the Americans with Disabilities Act defines a service animal as dogs that are individually trained to perform a specific task or job directly related to the person's disability. The Act clearly states that animals that just provide emotional comfort do not qualify as service animals. However, some state and local laws have broader definitions. The key difference between an emotional support animal and a service animal is whether the dog has been specifically trained to perform a task or job directly related to a person's disability. So for example, service dogs are trained to alert a hearing impaired person to an alarm going off. Or they might be trained to provide pressure therapy to someone with PTSD who's experiencing a panic attack. Now, individuals who use emotional support animals are provided certain accommodations in the areas of accommodation and travel. The Fair Housing Act includes emotional support animals in its definition of assistance animals. So under the Act, people cannot be discriminated against when obtaining housing. Rules such as pet bans or restrictions are waived for people who are prescribed an emotional support animal. And they cannot be legally charged a pet deposit for having an emotional support animal live with them. So in the US, it seems a little bit simpler than we have here in the UK, but I hope this information helps. But definitely go check it out and research for yourself, because it's kind of complicated. Also, if you're in the UK, check out the Renters Reform Bill on the gov.uk website, as it has some changes to how landlords will be required to accommodate certain pets in, their properties. So check that out. So finally, here are some things to consider if you're thinking about getting an animal to help with your anxiety, whether it's going to be an emotional support animal or an assistance animal, or just, the act of having an animal, or specifically a dog to help you. Then these are some things that you should really, really consider first. So aside from the obvious things like taking him home, getting him used to crate training, getting them used to being in the home, getting them out for walks every day, you also need to take into account that you're looking after a real living being. So that means you're going to have to consider vet costs. You're going to have to consider buying them loads of equipment and stuff. So the crate itself, you need pads to put around the house when they're toilet training. You need there's loads and loads of things that you need to get to actually look after the animal, and obviously that's gonna cost a not insignificant amount of money. You also need things like training classes, and you may need to leave them with someone to look after them when you can't, and all of this just costs, so it's a big expense. Another thing is that looking after a dog can kind of limit your freedom in a way. So for me and my girlfriend, we both work from home, so it's kind of okay. So we do spend a lot of time home and can look after the dog. But if you have to work a lot, you cannot really just leave him alone all day, every day, because especially with a poodle, for example, they need that contact, and they'll get, depressed and very anxious if you just leave them alone. So you have to think, do I actually have time to look after this animal in a way that's going to keep it happy, and then therefore both of us happy? Now that usually apparently does get easier as they age. You can leave them kind of alone for a little bit longer periods of time. But come on, it's an animal. They love you and they want to be with you. So think if you have that time. And if you can travel with them, even if you do want to travel with them, certain airlines don't take animals. Certain countries you can't go to, for example, countries that, might not be rabies free. So like the UK is rabies free, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you do want to visit another country with them, you have to get vaccine, and then it's hard for them to go anywhere else. There's all this kind of stuff you need to consider. So if you love traveling a lot and you want to travel with your pet, then just do a lot of research around that, because it also gets complicated. So if you really value being able to just get up and go anywhere at any time, then maybe a dog is not the perfect solution for you. Remember, there are so many other things you can do. You can go to things like a puppy yoga. There's here, I don't know if it's in the US as well, but we have this app called Borrow My Doggy, where you can go and literally borrow someone's dog and take it for walks and look after them. So if you want to do a little bit of that first, or if I can't get a dog, you can still do these other activities to meet these animals. And what we're hopefully going to do with Caesar as well is he's going to be used as a therapy dog. So we will be taking him around to kind of meet and provide some emotional support, some mental well-being support for people who need it. So these kind of things, have a look around what's available to you. if you're not able to fully look after one. Now finally, I have to stress that having a dog is not going to solve all your problems. If anything, it will make your life more stressful, at least in the beginning. But the benefits are definitely huge. And if you're willing to stick to a routine and you have the time and the energy to put into caring for this animal, then, you know, the love and support and just unconditional love and, you know, that they can provide in return is amazing and can be extremely rewarding. So I'm going to keep sharing my journey with Caesar on this channel. So make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss the next one. And also let me know in the comments what I missed and what other videos you want me to make on this topic or any topic covering mental health, anxiety, panic disorder, anything like that. So we'll see you next time.